research question, and I know a lot of you have been really interested in knowing kind of how to actually start nailing down your research question. And the way to do that is through research. And so I'm not going to show this right now, but in the slides, make sure that you watch this little video, which just explains that there's a process in the middle of creating your research question, which involves research and searching and figuring out what is there about your topic already done, what might be still interesting to do, what information can you find out about it. After you've looked at the video, now we're talking about how do we find the sweet spot in a research question? How do we craft one that's not too broad and not too narrow? How do we find one that's based on your interests and also your strengths? So you're curious about it, and you also have enough background knowledge in it that it kind of plays to your strengths as a student. A non-trivial question. So this means it has to be something not obvious, not something particularly easy, something that is somewhat debatable, where people could, kind of argue with you one way or another, so that you're really presenting a point of view on something, a thesis, something that you are going to try to prove with your evidence. And it needs to be just right in terms of a good amount of information will be presented for the size of the paper that you have. So you should be able to answer it in the 4,000 words. Okay, so we're in this one talking about how to get your research question to that sweet spot. So I'll just go through quickly a few sample questions, to see kind of what's too broad and what seems to be about right. And I'm not going to read through all of these. You have them in the slides, but just a few examples. And so then we're at the point of, okay, how can we do this for our own question? And one of the first steps that seems to work well is to take your topic and kind of force yourself to think about it in new ways. So take your topic and ask who about that topic, who's involved, who's impacted, who's the one doing something. Can be an individual person or group, a society, like who are the actual people involved? What, when, where, and how. So for each of these kind of big question words, force yourself to really brainstorm as many connections as you can for each of those. And you don't need to write out full questions. This is a brainstorm. So at the top of your paper, who, with your topic, and then a list of all the things that would fit in that category. What? What about the issue? What are some of the parameters of the issue or the topic? When was this happening? When could it happen? When was it most powerful or whatever? Just force yourself to get something down for each of these. And of course, you're not going to use all of them. It just really encourages you to kind of unlock your thinking. So that's why I have this kind of square peg in the round hole. You push your topic through each of these questions to see what you can unlock in terms of different categories and ways to think about your topic. So here's an example. The website this is from is a university site. It's fantastic page. And so this person is interested in LGBTQ rights in Asia. And so you can see they've just made a list of all the different ways that this topic can be viewed in these different areas. And as you're going through this, what you're really doing is tying your topic to specific things, specific categories of information. And so it's kind of like your topic plus what novel or plus what novels, maybe to compare. Your topic plus a region of the world, a country, a state, a particular culture. Your topic plus a particular time period. Is it right now, in the past, a span of years, something in the future that will have a future impact? Like, what time might you look at? Effect of your topic on something, and particular laws. This may not apply to you. I don't know if anybody, but it may. I mean, it really depends. There may be a particular law that had an impact on some other thing as it relates to your topic. And so again, we're always trying to get it right, meaning not too broad, not too narrow. How will you know? You'll know if you're getting it right if you seem to be able to gather a reasonable amount of information. There's enough information out there to be able to answer the question. So if you find tons and tons of information, then try to add another category to kind of narrow down. If you're finding that your information is too narrow, maybe one of your categories is a deal breaker and you want to open it up and change it for another one of these, focus areas, or another one of the things that you brainstormed when you forced it through those questions. Okay, the other thing to consider once you kind of have your categories figured out is some question starters. And all of these are pretty common ones. And you can, get started on one of these, look at your categories and see how they might fit together. I really like this chart. This is done by a friend of mine, another librarian. And I love the way this helps you understand how everything can fit together. So you have your different categories, you've got a time period, you've got a location, and then you can kind of go across. To what extent did this person, or to what extent did this time do this to this thing? And you're kind of like patching things together. And then at the bottom, you can see the color coding of how it all comes together to make a question. It's obvious we're talking about research questions, but it does have to be a question. And your question needs to be tight so that you have a tight answer. Because in addition to your question, you'll need to have a thesis statement which answers it. And so to what extent did religious persecution in Europe, blah, 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 your answer will be, religious persecution in Europe had a profound impact on the development of colonies in the United States. That's the thesis. So your question has to be something that can be answered in a sentence, one sentence as your thesis, and then backed up with all of your examples and evidence. So that's really what you're going for. So remember, the research question comes from ideas that you gather in your research, in your searching. That searching process is the only way for you to know that your research question will work, because you're able to see what's out there and what evidence you can gather. Alrighty? There's a practice activity here on the slides. I think it would be cool to do it. It's that same website I mentioned before, and it just gives you a few questions and asks you to think about, are they too broad or too narrow, and you take a guess. So it's kind of light and easy, and just gives you a little bit more in terms of examples of good questions. Okay, this is just what we're on to next. After we finish here today in Gecko Core, the expectation is that you go back and review the lessons 5 and 6 that we talked about, brainstorm your search strategies, brainstorm some keywords, figure out some filters that you're going to use for your searching. Start looking at categories of information. As you start seeing your results, keep track of different categories of information that will help you to narrow down your question. Put your topic through those 5 question words: who, what, where, when, and how, and see what other ideas you generate that can help you with finding more search terms. These things go together, the searching and the research question. And of course, along the way, whenever you work on this, make sure that you're saving your links either in Noodle Tools or in your research log, and put a little note underneath, just a sentence or phrase. What is that link? Don't just put a list of links. That's a huge waste of your time. Put the link and then a little something about what it is. It's for this category. It's for this idea. It's for this possibility. So that is very important. Don't waste your own time by going so fast that you have to go back and remember everything and like reopen all this stuff. Keep track, make notes to yourself all along the way. Okay, that's my lecture. Thanks. And good luck, and let me know if you need any help.